Oh, disclaimer. No hate, no harm to anyone in the trans community or anyone else out there. This is just a discussion. It's just opinion. And yeah, spread the love. Howdy, how's it going? How are you guys? Well, I hope. Well, today, this little short clip I'm going to give you is about a march. It's called the Million Man March for Children in Canada. That's been going on. It started like a couple of days ago. And the clip I'm going to show you, it only goes for like about 15 minutes, so it's not too long. I won't keep you. Really gives a broader perspective than what probably, if you have heard about it and it's from the mainstream media, it's not going to be. It's going to be quite a biased take on it. And I'll show you some parts. So this actually, it started off when I was first watching it in like 77 cities, and then it went on to 90 cities in Canada. This march was a protest from parents that want to be involved in what's happening in the schools, and also against sex positivity being taught in schools from a young age, and gender ideology as well. So we're talking about pronouns and the rights for the government, which it is at the moment in Canada, that if you don't do gender affirming care for your child, they will do it for you and take those rights away from you. This is currently something happening in Canada, and people are sick of it. And it's funny because a lot of stories I have seen about it, covering it, are really negative and saying, oh, you know, all the trans activists outnumbered all the other people. And for the most part, at all of these marches, you just had families, mothers, grandmothers, children, and it was diverse. I don't know if some of the people there were KKK members, some of the people were full on, Islamic. It could have been in between, but it was a mix of everybody. It wasn't just like one group, and it wasn't extremists either. It was just like literally normal people. And everyone that was interviewed in a lot of the stuff I've seen, and all of the posters that they were holding and everything was a positive, just saying this is not about trans people, it's not about LGBTQI plus 7 times 27, whatever the hell they're calling it now. This rainbow alphabet community. It's not against those guys, it's not against adults. This is literally, the march was in front of schools as well, because it's about the children. The parents are wanting rights back to their children. That's it. And it's not bad in any way, shape or form. So but it's been made out that this is all about hate and trans life matters. No one says that trans life don't matter. No one in these marches, I don't think. There was I've seen some footages of small groups of extremists, some people standing on the just stomping on the LGBT flag. Is that too much? Yeah, probably. And then I've seen it on the other side, they're just really bullying in dominance of groups, and I've seen it on a lot of protests over the past couple of years that have been going on, of this intimidation and even violence. Posey Parker, who goes around who's promoting what is a woman, she's had lots of death threats and other things, and Billboard Chris, another guy, he's awesome, love that dude. He goes around and has discussions with people at universities all through the US, and he just says, about biology. He'll state a scientific fact on his billboard and then start debates. And some of the trans people or activists are so violent and just so 0 to 100 with being attacked, feeling that being attacked, which is not the case. So, all right. That being said, I'll show you this clip. Watch it, and then you'll have a nice little fun gem at the end, as always. And that's it for this one here now. I don't think there's too much more to say on that. Oh, censorship. So one part of this as well, the reason why I'm playing this clip is because this is probably something that's not going to be seen by most people, because this radio station, radio, oh God, I'm so old. This media, TV, on TV? I don't know, just internet. I'm not actually sure. Don't quote me. But this media outlet. I'm not going to say they're anti-government, they're anti what a lot of the government does. There have been a lot of court cases with like Trudeau and other things. I think it's quite funny, but they put really good stories that I like to hear. So they're called Rebel News. I think they're called Rebel News because they're rebels in how they present and get the information and the rest of it. And I don't think they're really well liked by a lot of people, but I enjoy it, and I feel like they just give you the real story. The side that we're not being shown a lot of the time. So have a watch, and I hope you have a lovely day. Enjoy, and I'll talk to you next time.
Since ideology that claims the impossible, that individuals can change sex through self-declaration, that claims it is possible to be born in the wrong body, that says if a girl or a woman sees a man in their change room and that man says he's a woman.
While the vast majority of 1 million March for Children demonstrations that occurred in over 90 Canadian cities last week were peaceful, what occurred in British Columbia's capital on September 20th was anything but. Today, I bring you an interview with two of the speakers from that parental rights protests who will let you know exactly what went down.
The protesters should have attended, exercised their free speech rights without being aggressive, without being threatening, and the police should have done their job.
Turn it off, or I'm walking over there right now. Right now. Okay, no. Yeah. Right Come on. I want to hear this stop.
There was witnessing by multiple people, including some of our security, where they saw after the protests had began, there were large buses that came in with approximately 100 to 200 people getting off. And they were the ones who came in a bit later and pushed right to the front and were quite aggressive.
Drea Humphrey here with Rebel News, and contrary to the rhetoric that was spewed out about last week's parental rights protests by figures like Justin Trudeau, Jagmeet Singh, and woke union representatives like this.
This is absolutely crucial that we oppose this in the streets. And this is just signs that I've seen that we're rising, that this is far more than just like a far-right transphobic protest. They are fundamentally racist. They're fundamentally anti-union. They are fundamentally queer and transphobic. And it's just a matter of time before they come to us.
The 1 million March for Children seeking an end to the sexualization of kids in schools was not some sort of hateful attack against the LGBTQ plus community. Instead, as many of you have seen with your own eyes, either from being present at the march or watching our cross-country coverage at stopclassroomgrooming.com, you know that march for children was a peaceful Muslim-led family-first movement that attracted a diverse group of Canadians who say that when it comes to teaching things like gender confusion and sex activism in schools, hands off our kids. Out of the nearly 100 cities, 27 of which occurred in British Columbia, a handful saw blips of hate and even less saw violence. And spoiler alert, when they did, it was almost always those who suited up in rainbow clad to counter-protest against the families there. Apparently, they truly believe that parents advocating for better education for their students are somehow simply far-right bigoted fascists who hate trans kids. The scene at British Columbia's Legislature Building in Victoria was perhaps the most aggressive of all because Victoria police not only arrested at least 2 individuals, they halted the demonstrations altogether.
I just want to speak.
It's off, or I'll take it.
Okay, yeah. Dave! Dave! Kill it! It's off.
Well, I was invited to be the MC as well. I did some consultation in the organizing. The atmosphere was, there were about 2,500 people there. However, the protests for the 1 million march we were about 200. So we were grossly outnumbered with 2,000 plus anti-protesters there. The atmosphere there was chanting. There was, Trans Lives Matter. We began with a little bit of music, some speeches that the protesters have began to get louder. Then after the first introduction by one of the organizers, I then took the stage as the MC and I went into my speech. At that time, I'm going to say it felt still. There was chanting, but there became a hush and people were listening. They were listening to what I was saying. They were hearing. There was times that it rose and it went back down. And then there was a shift that took place when a larger group of anti-protesters had come in and pushed their way to the front. And that's when it got extremely loud and extremely aggressive. There was no longer those who had been listening, who were there to counter protest, now got pushed to the back. Those who were still gathered were in the front. It began to surround us. We were completely horseshoed in, those who were gathered for this event. And we remained peaceful. We remained calm. We continually embodied that, why we were there and what the messaging was. They began to break the crowd barrier. The police at that time told those who were saying, you're letting them through. They were saying, we can't hold them back. There's too many. The police then came to the front and were holding our security zone. But these protesters were now breaching it and running and flipping tables and charging the stage and being tackled at our feet as we were speaking. And then that is when, Megan, you then took the stage and began your speech. And then that's when the police then said that the aggression and the violence had risen too quickly and that they no longer could ensure our safety.
Turn it off or I'm walking over there right now. Right now. Okay, no. Yeah. Right. Come on. I want to hear this stop.
I've been doing this work for a long time. I've been speaking out against gender identity ideology in Canada since around 2016, earlier really in a feminist movement.
This debate was happening in the late 70s and 80s, and radical feminists were like not having it at all. Like, it's only recently that all these so-called feminists started to come around and say trans women are women.
And I am always afraid, and there are always threats, and there are always violent protesters, and there are always concerted attempts to shut down our events. So we can't back down. We have to feel afraid and speak anyway, and if we didn't, we wouldn't speak at all. I know that people are afraid to speak out. I'm afraid to speak out. I want people to know that it's not just them who are worried, who are afraid of the risk, who are afraid of losing their jobs, losing friends, being ostracized in their communities, being ostracized from their activist groups, from being physically harmed. I think that sometimes people don't take those threats seriously. They're very serious. These are not your regular activists. They will, and they are committed to violence and committed to intimidation and bullying. There were women and children, mothers and children at this event. There were elder women at this event. There was a very diverse crowd, and it did not deter these protesters from screaming, from pushing, from violent acts. And so, of course, I'm going to go forward and speak. It was scary, but my approach is to kind of block that out and to say what I want to say and say what I need to say to empower and galvanize others to feel they can speak out and speak their truths and exercise their free speech rights.
What do we know, if anything, about who organized that many counter-protesters to come and some who were violent?
If you don't mind, I'd like to give a little bit of voice to that. So I did have the opportunity to speak to some of the local organizers within our community whom had been approached by the transgender community, asking them to stand with them. And so they helped organize locally across the islands in our communities from the LGBTQ+2 communities. Now, some of us had attempted to have conversations in a sense of saying, let's all just hear each other. Let's come together and hear each other. However, there was witnessing by multiple people, including some of our security, where they saw after the protests had began, there were large buses that came in with approximately 100 to 200 people getting off. And they were the ones who came in a bit later and pushed right to the front and were quite aggressive. There is speculation, and I do want to be clear that it is speculation, whether it was from the leaked video with the union workers whom were going to be dispatching their rapid response team, the Flying Squirrels, previously known. There was speculation on whether or not this was the rapid response team or whom these individuals were, but they were not there in service to community to hear. They were there just only to disrupt at all costs and aggressively and violently, even though there were children in the crowd.
If we stand up to the bully will decide what to do. They will fight, fright, or flight, fight, or fright. And so let's give them some fright on September 20th, so that on September 21st till whatever, that they're working on the flight tactic.
I was escorted out right away by the police and by our security team. It seemed like a very dangerous situation to me. And I had just come from San Francisco, where I had actually been chased down. Another woman and I were chased by Antifa, who broke into a private area. We were panelists on a women's convention, the Women's Declaration International, which was being held in San Francisco at the Hilton in San Francisco. And Antifa, there were many, many protesters. They shut down the intersection there, and some Antifa members broke through to a private bridge area where we were filming. We thought we were safe, and they tried to attack us, and we had to run, and it was terrifying. And to be frank, the cops seemed all too happy to escort me out. The cops, as Serena was saying, shut down the event halfway through my talk. We were barely into our event. We didn't get to have our march. I was extremely frustrated at the police response. I realized that they were outnumbered and that they seemed nervous, but they should have been prepared for this, and they should have done a better job in protecting us and protecting the attendees, protecting the mothers, the children, the elders. It was way too scary for people attending, and it should not have been. The protesters should have attended, exercised their free speech rights without being aggressive, without being threatening, and the police should have done their job in ensuring safety, and they didn't. So I did leave because of these real safety concerns, but it was disappointing.
Now, Serena, throwing it to you, you had a little bit of a conversation with the police on the best way to get people out safely. Tell us a bit about that.
Absolutely. So what had happened was when the organizers pulled me aside and said they're pulling the plug on us, they were just cutting it, and Megan was up there and they were going to pull the plug, and I got up there to make an announcement to try to let the crowd know. At that moment, they pull the plug. The police it was done. And I said, I looked out at the crowd and I could see that our approximately 200 small crowd was completely horseshoed in by over 2,000 anti-protesters. And I said, this isn't safe. If it's not safe for them to be here, then how are they going to get out? We can't let them go through the crowd. That's not safe. And he said, I don't know. And I said, you have a responsibility to this community, and so do I. I said, I'm not leaving till they're out. There are children in that crowd. I got them to turn the microphone back on once again. I got them to create a corridor with the police so that they could get the people from the front with the women and the children and the elders to come out and through so that they can have a clear exit, a safe exit out instead of going through the crowd. And they utilized that. I went down. I thanked them for coming. Some were reluctant. People were confused. They didn't know what was going on. They didn't want to stop, but many were afraid. And I told them that now this was a safety concern and that we couldn't ensure their safety, and that it was time for their children to leave. And many took that opportunity to leave, but many took that opportunity to stay and to really embody the messaging and to not be intimidated out. And that is then when my security team said to me, those who have left. We can't ensure your safety anymore. Now we need to get you out. And that's when we went to go leave. As I did go to leave, there were those who had come in the front while I was speaking who had been intimidating. Now we're at the back and were trying to approach me. And so my team just said, go, and got me out of there. And I was told to leave the city, in which I did.
What is your advice for people who want to take up this fight, but now they're like, oh, it might be crazy to do so?
We were outnumbered in Victoria, but across Canada, we were not outnumbered. Across Canada, we saw tens and thousands of Canadians come out. and peacefully protest and to peacefully push back against these government policies, against SOGI, against gender identity ideology being taught in school. I heard that there were 5,000 in Ottawa. I heard that there were 2,000 in various other cities, including Montreal, Vancouver, Calgary, Edmonton, all sorts of little towns, Vernon across Canada, Nanaimo. And I'm so inspired by all these people. And I think that what we do know is that we are the majority.
So many are feeling intimidated and afraid to be targeted if they speak out. And so they give us that quiet support behind. But I want to remind you, there comes a time where good men and women, we need to speak and we need to be brave. And in the face of fear, as Megan said previously, it's okay to step forward, and we need our communities to give voice now. And I do want to say that we have so many diverse communities speaking. We all have an obligation. If we're speaking on behalf of community, we have an obligation to come together and to address these situations and create spaces where we can actively together speak about what our diverse needs are. And we need to solve this. It happens within our communities, not from government institutions. And so it is so important right now that each and every one of our communities, whether it be the LGBTQ, our trans communities, our freedom movements, our Muslim communities, our Sikh communities, we understand that we all need to come to the table. We have a responsibility, and it's going to take each and every one of us actually being in service to our communities, not censoring, not shutting each other down, but actually doing the work that our communities are needing right now. And this is how you do it, by beginning the conversations.
We let the people know what really took place on September 20th, and so can you. Go to stopclassroomgrooming.com to share hands-on, boots-on-the-ground coverage of the peaceful protests to others. And you can even take action by signing our petition there that will be delivered to the ministers of education for you to let them know enough is enough, hands off our kids. And also, if you appreciate the important work that Rebel News does, you can help be a part of making it possible by donating a few bucks there, if you can. That's stopclassroomgrooming.com.
Let's get something going on. A little bit of this and a little bit of that. A little bit of whip and a little bit of crack, and you got something going on. Oh yeah, something going on. Oh yeah, something going on. You get a little bit of color and a little bit of black. Mix it all together with a little smack, and you've got something going on. Oh yeah, something going on. Oh yeah, something going on. A little bit of jive, then a bit of rock and roll. Not sure if you're walking or you're going for a stroll, but you've got something going on. Oh yeah, something going on. Oh yeah, something going on. Give it a little bit of shove and a little lot of love. With a little bit of fire, let it go down to the wire. You've got something going on. Oh yeah, something going on. Oh yeah, something going on. A little bit of spite and a little bit of fight. Not sure if it will or not, but give it all your might, then you'll have something going on. Oh yeah, something going on. Oh yeah, something going on. A little bit of tip and a little bit of tap. Sometimes it's real hard just getting through the crap, so you'll have something going on. Oh yeah, something going on. Let's get something going on. Something going on. Something.
Did you love that or what? Out of curiosity, anyone, let me know. I put the subtitles on that song, so you've got the actual words there. What do you think that song's about? Without cheating and without like trying to find the information or looking it up, tell me, listen to that song and tell me what you think it's about. Put it in the comments. All right. Cheers. Bye.